You're listening to the Paul Higgins Show, the place for ambitious tech consultants scaling to live better. After 18 years as a global leader and having a successful tech consulting exit, I'm sharing what's working now to transform emerging tech consultants worldwide into trusted consultants that attract the best clients and deliver measurable results. When you're ready to level up your clarity, results, and freedom, begin with the free Strategic Profits Blueprint available at paulhigginsmentoring.com/blueprint. Imagine this, you have traction with your tech consulting business and you've thought of an exit, but you don't really know the right steps and the right timing. Hi, I'm Paul Higgins and welcome to the Paul Higgins Show, episode number 518. And in this podcast, our guest is going to give you the answers to both of those questions as to when is the right time and also how do you set yourself up for that. Alex brings a wealth of experience from working in enterprise software and services industry. He's worked with large global players such as SAP, Siebel, and has also been the VP and GM at levels as other well-known businesses. And as a revenue growth advisor, Alex has aided many firms with positioning for M&A transactions. So in short, what he does is get service businesses ready for sale. His expertise in leading and building software and service companies provides a core background to help organizations set themselves up to achieve their strategic objectives, which is the best exit possible. Having worked for many founders and boards, Alex appreciates understanding the complexities that come into play with considering possible M&A scenarios. Alex has a BA in economics and an MBA in finance and marketing. And if you're interested to maximize the sale of your professional services business, your tech consulting business, Alex is the right person to listen to. So what I'll do now is hand you over to Alex MacKay from TechquityAdvisors.com. Great to have you here, Alex.
Thanks, Paul, very much.
We've spoken a lot and it's, I know we've been trying to get this organized for a while, but we've given you a nice introduction and sort of told people what you do. Why don't you sort of be a little more specific around, some of the clients that you love to work with and what some of the problems you help solve them with?
Yeah, no, absolutely. A fairly easy one. We consider one of our secret sauces is our focus. We focus on enterprise B2B only. We focus on sell side only, and we really like certain ecosystems: Salesforce.com, ServiceNow, SAP, Microsoft, all the MSPs, so Google Cloud, Azure, AWS. Most of all, we kind of love enterprise B2B SaaS. So a product that does something. Been around the enterprise B2B space my entire life. My partners are pretty much the same. We can talk procurement, HR, distribution, manufacturing. We can kind of go anywhere. Accounting, we can kind of go anywhere. We're not experts in any of them, but we understand what's being said. So those are kind of our ideal clients, kind of in those market spaces. We'll also look at, different categories like health tech, government tech, anything to do with marketing tech, so that pulls in Adobe and HubSpot and all those other folks. So those are there. I would say that number one thing we do is we help people get ready, particularly people who haven't done it before. We get a lot of people who've done it before and they just go like, we definitely need an agent because, we've seen what the agent does. And I would say the majority of people haven't done it before and don't know exactly what to do. Almost everybody that we talk to them for 3 years, in some cases like 5 years before they call us up and say, hey, we're going to do this. And along that way, a kind of way of thinking is nurture them like crazy. And if we provide value, just advice, lead generation, who knows what it is, hiring, we can talk it all because we're business operators. We're really, I always say we're better business operators than we are bankers. If we help people along the way, then we either make the short list, and when we're lucky, we get a call that says, it's time, it's you, right? Doesn't happen that often, but it's a really good feeling when that does happen. It means that you've really brought value to their thinking and getting prepped. It's not easy to prep. There's a lot of metrics and things you need to think about.
Yeah, brilliant. And you sort of talked about some of those verticals, healthcare, fintech, et cetera. Are there any particular ones that are more in favor at the moment, or is it, pretty much, you run a good business, there's a good opportunity for sale?
I would definitely not say it's the latter. The world of 2022 and 2023, the buying world, the favorite words were prudence and safe haven investments. And places like Salesforce.com and ServiceNow are safe haven investments to private equity money and strategic buyers, right? But it also means they like vertical specialization. And it can be just about any vertical, but I would say at the top of the food chain are healthcare, government tech right now, prudence, safe haven, fintech, and then just that whole big manufacturing sector, which pulls in a whole bunch of things. But, if you're a retail expert, can we find a buyer? Yes. And will people appreciate that you're a retail expert? Absolutely. Automotive? Absolutely. So there's a lot of different ones out there, but there are some that are just, there's way more buyers for it. That's just the way it is.
Great. You're listening to Alex and you're thinking, yeah, look, I got into this business with the view that maybe at some point I'll sell, but you've got deep in the weeds, right? And you've run your business really hard. And this is a great opportunity to sort of think and hear Alex talk about, well, what is possible? When is the sale possible? If I'm listening to you, Alex, like, when do I start to think about, okay, my business is ready for sale?
Yeah, I'll probably surprise you a little bit with the answers. Almost all the time, it's really about your personal objectives, your shareholder objectives, your board objectives. If you're the primary CEO and owner, it's really about your objectives. And probably there's a family and a spouse in behind the scenes that got a say in all that. And what I always kind of advise people is, what can tell you your valuation, right? And we'll figure it out. And we're not going to make it complicated. And it's not going to be like a report from a big accounting firm or anything. But we can give you a good indication of what your valuation would be in the market. If that matches your personal objectives, right? If we tell you you're worth 50 million and you think you're worth 50 million, that means it's a pretty good time to go to market, because we would take into account the current conditions in the market, right? 2021 in SaaS, valuations were high. In Salesforce.com ecosystem, they were as high as they've been for the last 4 or 5 years, and they still haven't changed. Yes. Right. So, some markets are going up and down and some markets are, just rolling along like a rocket ship. The timing question is really look in the mirror and figure out, what do I want? If you come to me and say, I need 50, and we look at you and say, you're worth 30, it's probably a really bad time to go to market. If you tell us 50 and we think you're worth 100, we'll probably tell you we're thinking 80 or 90 because we would love to keep the little extra room, but that would be a really good time to go to market. And then it's also discussion of the buyers and the fit. And, it's not just finances and valuation. The culture, persona of the buyer is always a major factor. In fact, by the time a deal gets done, it's more than 51% of the deal, almost all the time.
Yeah. And of the deals that do go through, how often does the owner stay on as either earn out or in some capacity versus completely walk away?
For services, so you're an implementation partner for one of the big ecosystems. Yeah. Pretty much it's always going to happen. Minimum of 1 year. Yeah. Most likely 2 to 3. In many cases, you're so valuable, you're such a industry speaker or something that they want to put golden handcuffs on you, but it won't be mandatory. Typically, we see in the services one, match the earnout to the time you're going to stay. Do you really want to be responsible for an earnout for 3 years and you leave in 2 years and you have zero control over that, right? Yeah. Product can be different. A SaaS company can be different. And often, the head of the company may not be the product tech, may not be the true inventor, the product manager, might have just been the person with the vision. And maybe they've been, sometimes these people have been at it for like 15, 20 years. And, to a degree, they were just open and honest. And they say, like, I've had enough. And I built the team underneath me on purpose. Yes. So I'm really a chairman. I'm not necessarily a CEO anymore. Yeah. And in that environment, everybody's going to want you to stick around just to make sure, but maybe that only becomes 6 months. Maybe that only becomes a year.
Yeah. And of the people that, take, say, a 3-year earn out and it's the 3-year contract, how many of them stick it?
Oh, the vast majority will stick it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, for sure. If it doesn't work out, it usually then means that something's gone wrong. And, can be on either side. It could be the sell side. It could be the buy side. We see most of the time it ends up being like the buyer talked about marketing support, sales support, network support, and then didn't deliver that much. And then the earnout suddenly is not achieved. And then, the environment turns a little negative, right? But the way we structure them, we're really clever on how we do earnouts. I'm not going to give away my secrets, but we know how to structure those so that, if you miss, there's still a chance to get. Yeah. And that takes very careful thinking and planning.
Yeah, great. And as a rough rule of thumb, how much do you normally get up front and how much of the earnout? Is there an average
Yeah,
percentage, or is it different every deal?
it's different every deal, Paul, and it really depends on the market. 100% is very rare. On the product side, it's possible, right? And there are buyers on the product side in particular where they maybe already have a product that's similar, but they know they're missing a couple of real key function blocks that you've got, and they're getting hurt in the marketplace. You beat them 3 times in a row, and they've had enough, and they're really just after the product.
Yes.
So they're not necessarily after everything else. And in that case, they may be willing to pay a premium just to say, we don't want you. Well, they're going to want certain people, but they're going to want product people, not necessarily the leadership team. On the services side, wow, we've seen anywhere from like 50% to as high as 80%.
Yeah.
And it depends on the ecosystem. It depends on, quite frankly, how good Techquity's done their job in terms of creating a competitive environment. I always say to people, we do not do auctions. That's not Techquity.
Yeah.
But there's a certain point in time for about 4 weeks, it's an auction.
Yeah. And look, I know when we sold our business, we got 50 up front. But the reason that I settled with 50 is that my business partner went with a sale, and he had he was running the business and had to work hard to get his 50. So I mean, if he's working hard for his 50, I'm going to get mine. So it was a pretty low risk.
It's always customized, who's staying, who's not. There's like, many different factors that come into play. To a degree, at the end of the day, it will really boil down to how competitive it is. Like, if we can give our seller a chance where they sit back and go like, wow, we got 1A, we got 1B, we got 1C, and we are having a hard time making a decision, and we need your help. We've experienced cases where, it takes us 2 weeks just to knock off one of them, get it down to 2. And then, management of the buyers is something that take great pride in. And we know buyers, and we talk to the buyers. We don't work for them, but we listen to them. We document what they're saying, right? One of our hidden secrets is we kind of know what they're after in the first place, right? And if they declared early in the year that they were all in on healthcare and there's a healthcare asset, well, guess what? Telling us all that keen on it is really not going to play out that well.
Yeah. And I know that when, work for Coca-Cola, used to do, billion-dollar acquisitions, and we actually used to play the buyer's book more than ours. So we'd actually say, okay, now we're going to be the buyers for the next week. What do they want? What's the situation, et cetera. And then that always got us a better outcome than,
no, I agree with that totally.
Yourself.
It's a great strategy. And there are times when you're in the final stages, particularly leading up to the LOI or the term sheet, whatever the terminology is that you're using. We will actually go to work for the buyers a little bit. You want it to be win-win, right? And you're always sniffing out whether they're sincere about what they're saying and what they're going to put in the LOI. But on the same token, you also want to make sure that they're not buying into a situation where they get into DD and they're going to start saying, well, that's not quite what we had in mind, right? So we flush that out hard. And we'll have detailed conversations with them about what they're really chasing, what they really want. And, it boils down to simple things like the people and the clients and all that kind of stuff.
Great. And we sort of briefly talked about valuations before. Is there a rough rule of thumb on valuations?
There's lots of information out there that's reasonably public. You can get sourced information out of, places like PitchBook and 451, and, there's others. The problem is that in the mid-sized market, most of that information is not available because most of it's private sales.
Yes.
It's hard to find, comparables. You might find some indicators. Valuation in SaaS versus services, very different.
So from a services point of view, is it like, I've heard anywhere range between 1 to 3 times revenue? Like, is that,
I would say
sort
the
of
range
a guide stick?
Yeah, it depends on the ecosystem. So like if you're in the mature ecosystems like SAP, Oracle, very often the valuation is based on EBITDA. Whereas if you're the rising juggernauts, Salesforce, ServiceNow, perfect examples, the valuation revenue. I would say that kind of the minimum guide is like if you're not at 5 million and not even in services or product, it's really hard to get a lot of buyers keen on it. They report to investment committees. The investment committees, many of them are friggin' billionaires.
Yes.
And they have a short attention span, right? I've had, biz dev folks at private equity firms say, like, I can't bring it. I lug it. It looks really good. If we could do it in 2 years, they'll blow past 5 million, maybe be at 7 or 8. Then I'm all in. But, I risk getting fired by showing up at 4 million. Really in services, the real mark is 10 Because that's where the valuations start to kick in. And in the hot markets, anywhere from one upwards of into the threes and high threes are available. There have been fours. It's rarefied air.
Yeah. So that makes sense, like 10 million times, let's say be conservative 2. So you're looking at 20 million, that gives you sort of an estimate. If you're thinking, well, what could the size of the prize be? That sort of gives you an estimate.
Yeah, it gives you an indication. If you're at 10, most likely it starts at 2. And then it boils down to what's your core expertise? Like, what are you good at? And if the answer is I'm really, really good at healthcare, certain subsector of healthcare, because there's so many subsectors in there. And I've got expertise in these certain cloud solutions, and my implementations are quite complex, and I'm deep inside the organization. It's kind of like a plus, a plus, a plus, and then there'll always be minus.
Yeah.
My profit, because I'm investing so heavily, my profit single digit. I'm at 9% EBITDA. It's a negative.
Yes.
EBITDA, you got to get yourself into the at least double digits. And, the higher you get and the closer you get to 20, the valuation's going up.
And let's say, someone's listening, Alex, that's at, 2 at the moment, they at least want to get to 5. Let's say that range. Now you've had a lot of experience, like you said, you've, experience being an operator yourself. You've seen a lot of these businesses. Now, what are the things that really move the needle to get to 2 to 5 in top line revenue?
Varies on the conversation, but I would say probably the number one we see is all around lead generation. They're getting most of their leads from the ecosystem. Salesforce is giving them to them. The account execs at ServiceNow are giving them to them. They're like a little bit of an extreme word, but they're kind of spoiled. Then they get to the 2 to 3 mark, almost like because they have close friends in the network who, they got a lot of respect for them, and, they got the guts to go do this. And so they get help from their buddies, if you will. And then they wake up one day and go, well, hang on a minute, we don't have anything coming from those folks anymore. So where do we go get new ones? And lead generation is not an easy topic. Like, it takes a lot. So I would say our coaching there is on a lot. Hiring is a big one. See a lot of people, like, you can't wait to hire a salesperson, so the CEO doesn't have to do it themselves. And they don't really know how to hire.
Yes.
I always tell people, HR help, you fractional CFO, interesting, fractional chief HR person who knows how to do hiring, knows how to interview, knows how to create the script for the interview, knows how to qualify people, knows how to check people for the truth. Extremely valuable. I took a program years ago, big company paid for it, called Top Grading. Believed in it my entire life. It's a great, great program. It's, the book is like this thick, and you really only need this much, but you can filter through it and figure out the ones you want. And interviewing is a key part of it. We see people all the time in hiring salespeople, and my advice to them is, do you have a lead generation machine yet? And the answer is, what is that? And I go, it's called leads, right? Yeah. And you're producing them.
Yes.
You hire the salesperson and you say, you're a cat, head out in the street and go get me something. I think the number of salespeople who are really good at that is not the 80-20 rule. It's like the 90-10, 95-5 rule.
The 4%. Yeah. It's
a small percent.
Spot on. You did right. And I offer a service where I go in and actually just evaluate salespeople when, like you said, a CEO that's technical based, hired someone who's interviewed great. They didn't do any testing. They just basically went on there. This is going to get me out of a problem. So it's nearly like the shiny object. It's like anyone that interviews half decent, I've got them, and then they've got them, it doesn't work out. And it's like, is it me? Is it them? I'm like, so I often did audits, and like, it's, sadly, a lot of people that say they're from the Salesforce ServiceNow ecosystem, they got all these contacts, etc. When you actually put that's hard to deliver on. So if someone's telling you that in an interview, and that's their number one strategy to get you leads, beware, because you've already got that in some ways. So why do you need it in the first place? And it's rare that someone ever really delivers on that. You're
better off, Paul, to invest in, like, it doesn't have to be a CMO. It could be a fractional CMO. There's definitely good people out there who do that. They need to be interviewed too. But, bring in a marketing person who, knows what lead generation is, knows how to run campaigns, knows how to use social media, and get them working on it first to the point where you're going, like, we're not following up on the leads. Now you need a salesperson, right? You feed I don't know where I get these weird analogies, right? But it's not a cat that you open the door and say, go get. It's a German Shepherd that you say, point.
Yes. Yes. Spot on. And you did right. And I think, and often it is leads. And look, like, we've had huge success with LinkedIn outreach, and, but I've been doing it since, 2018, and I've got a very succinct way of doing it for this industry. right?
Yeah.
But you're better off investing in something like which is structured and then get a sales admin person to run it on your behalf than
Yes.
risk a $100 or $150,000 head. And, so often
Bingo.
I'll get that situation and it's like, no, I think that's really great advice. So that's lead generation and hiring. What else? What are the other things that you see really make the difference between, say, 2 and 5?
Probably the next one would be, and sometimes it's first right out of the gate and it's obvious, is that they've got a strategic plan, which is fairly well thought out, maybe even got help to do it. Very often have invested, you could tell they've invested serious time in it. And, they've got 10 initiatives, right? We're going after government. We're going after fins. We're going after this. We're going to do MarTech. We're going to do CPQ. We're going to do data integration. And you listen to it and you go, they're all good. I'd pick one and nail it, and pick one for the first year, and then you see what blossoms out of there, and let your customers take you to the next one. But just be the friggin' best at something. It's funny, a lot of people when they listen to that, just particularly because I got the silver hair to prove it, been around, and I've screwed up probably more times than I've succeeded, and that's just the advantage of experience, right? Funny how a lot of people when they listen to that, they just go, I should have thought of that myself.
Yeah.
But you know what? I always find that we will tell people that our advice comes more often as questions as opposed to answers. It's like, we know what to ask you. We're not smart enough to give you the answer because we're not running your business. Like, we're not in your shoes and we're not in the weeds in the forest. We're hovering up above with ideas. But sometimes the questions we might ask might take you to a point where you might have taken a year of screwing things up before you got there. And that's why these kind of topics, hiring and focus, just reviewing their strategy is key thing.
Yeah. And you bring, like you said, loads of operational experience, but you're doing this every day, right? And sometimes, they are in the weeds so much they don't see it. And what I like to, the Super Bowl, I think is, just around the corner when we're releasing this episode, but I'm like, you're not going to the whole 120,000 crowd. Think of it as
Yeah.
a super box, right? Like, who are the
Yeah.
people in that you really want to target? Because you can do all things and you could sell something to everyone. Yep.
Yeah.
Sure you can, but the
It's like,
simplicity is the hardest thing to do.
absolutely. Oh, bingo. Yeah. I love that word. Simplicity is one of my favorites. A lot of people will not even be able to talk about their TAM, their total addressable market.
Yeah.
And so that's an issue right away. Like, how do you do lead generation if you haven't identified your TAM?
Yeah.
And then a lot of people who have identified their TAM have done it inside like a PowerPoint deck, thinking of, maybe we'll raise some capital, so they think that, a couple of charts will do the trick. The couple of charts is the beginning, right? So yeah, your TAM is like whatever, $10 billion, but you're 2 million. Like, I think we need to tighten that up a little bit, right? Let's figure out the TAM that gets you from 2 to 10.
And I love your point that you said before. It's like, you got to put yourself in the buyer's shoes. Not when we think about ourselves, and that's, that's what we as humans
Yeah.
do. But when it's not what you want, it's what they want, and what they want gets you what you want, right? And I think that's where what you're saying is so important. And so many people just say, well, it's time for me to sell. I'm just waiting for a white horse, knight and a white horse to come through the door and everything will be fine. But you've got to work hard to make sure that it's in their odds are, not yours. And it's the same with your customers. Like, so many I see tech people that are so in love with their product and the features of the product, they forget what the result is for the customer, right? Similar story to the way that you've been expressing it, how you sell your business in this environment.
Yeah. What's the old one? I forgot who it was. Very famous marketeer said, does a customer want the drill or do they want the hole? Yeah. They don't care what the drill is. Get me the friggin' solution. I can't remember who it was. Levitt, maybe. I can't remember.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, they don't care if, you got health issues. It's all about them and how do you make it. I think that's so important.
It's one of the areas where we end up doing a lot of coaching is sometimes, particularly on the product side, it's their baby. They love their baby and they can't stop talking about the functionality of the baby, right? It's all good. People love the passion and enthusiasm. Some of these people are borderline eccentric, and that's what makes them so successful. It also sometimes becomes their major flaw.
Yes.
They can't scale the company because they're so like, it's all about kind of like their vision, and the vision is all about a product. It's really not about the market.
Yeah, so true. Well, you're listening to Alex MacKay from Techquity. We're in episode 518, and it's techquityadvisors.com, which we'll talk about in a moment. But what we're going to do now is just shift gears, because we could talk forever, Alex, but we're going to shift gears into rapid fire. So I've got 4 questions for you.
Okay.
And you give me some rapid responses. You ready for that?
Well, give it a try.
All right, let's do it. So the first one, what are some of the daily habits that help you scale Techquities?
Okay, that one, it's focus, and it's extreme focus. And it's as simple as, it's a lot more than this, but it's as simple as your calendar should include your tasks, not just your meetings. And you should look at your calendar every week, every month, every day, and look at the tasks and potentially the meetings that aren't going to get you closer to where you're going this day, and move them out, or you just say, that task can wait another month. Like, I don't really have to do it. I guess maybe, in the old school, we call it time management, but working your calendar is what I would say. Focus in on the tasks that you're doing. Sometimes you'll gravitate to what you think is the best and you'll feel good. That's not really what you're after. If you're scaling your company, you're chasing revenue.
Yeah, great advice. The next is, where do you find out more about not just scaling your business, but like you said, helping the ecosystem?
A lot of it boils down to things that we've talked about already. Have had a lot of experience doing this. So, I rely on my own thoughts and then reaching out to my advisors and people that I know just to talk openly about what I'm thinking. And we're very collaborative inside the Techquity. So we all exchange ideas and toss things around and that kind of stuff. People, absolutely critical, the hiring, but just the management of people when you get them in. The kind of way of thinking about it is, when you hire somebody, you're responsible for their success. It's not them.
Yes.
You hired them, you're responsible. So figure it out, right? After that, I would say, I've had great success running companies. When I was a CEO, I always had some version of a coach nearby, and sometimes I paid them very dearly. I used Vern Harnish in particular. I forget what his company's called now. And what I found most of all, there's a lot of other good things, including just recommended reading sometimes, getting things articles mostly, but perhaps a book now and then on topics where maybe you're struggling a bit. Could be hiring. But I always found that people I know that hire coaches, the coaches bring them a cadence. They bring a rhythm to the business. It's funny how smaller companies think, well, we're so small, we don't have to have meetings. Yeah, but if you're going to scale, you're going to have meetings. You don't have to have a bunch, but you need to have a cadence to the company. What do we do in a week? What do we do in a month? What do we do in a quarter? And so I've had great success using coaches. And sometimes it's just, your personal friend who's an advisor, right? I used to refer to a certain person as my CEO doctor.
Yes. Yes.
Call them because I'm lost. And you have a hard time admitting that in front of your own team, but admitting it to a friend who's an ally on your behalf, sometimes will get you the questions you need to, get to sleep.
Perfect. And if we could grant you one wish for Techquity, what would that be?
Well, it'd be funny because we're in a certain size of the market, basically running on revenues anywhere from 5 to 40, 50. Our outcomes are going anywhere from 10 upwards to the highs, but not the 9 digits. We have several opportunities that are going to be 9 digits. If I had a wish, it would be that I could find more 9-digit deals to work.
And the last thing, you've got all this experience. What do you wish, if you look from a services perspective, let's put it in that way because it's more relevant to you listening. If all of what you've learned from, helping people get great exits in their service business, what's something that they should have done sooner?
You said the word earlier, study and learn about simplicity. I go to conferences a lot, right? And super smarty lady or super smarty guys you listen to them and you go, man, oh man, that is it. They go 1, 2, 3, and then they talk about 1, 2, 3 for an hour. They didn't get to 1, 2, 3 just by haphazard. They figured it out, and they probably looked at 1,000 before they picked the 3. So simplicity, if you study simplicity, worthy of reading some good books on it, certainly some articles out there. Simplicity is not easy. Easy and simplicity don't go together. Simplicity is figuring out and studying the details so that you actually are really close to what the truth might be. And, I know when I picked that up, it was well into my career. It was really a gift from one of my coaches who said that, you guys you got so much going on, but every conversation seems to be so complex.
Yes.
We listened really closely, and then all of a sudden we went, nah, we now know what we're doing. There you go. All of a sudden, what does that equal? Focus.
Yeah. And often what I see is rough diamonds, right? I'm like, there's so much stuff that's preventing you from really shining through. It's like, how do I chip away? And, like you said, I help build the business to get to then hand to you to the exit, so to speak. And a lot of that is just chipping away at the stuff that isn't necessary to get to the core. So couldn't agree more.
It's that, I'm not sure the phrase is, I'm sure tons of people have said this, right? But it's the relentless pursuit of excellence. Can't be good at everything. Pick it and nail it and just be, the best at it, or at minimum be at least one of the best. But, you should always strive to be the best you possibly can, whatever you're doing.
Brent. Well, look, it's been great having you on. It's great having you in our
Thank you, Paul.
ecosystem. So you can find out more about Alex MacKay at techquityadvisors.com, and it's Techquity Advisors.com.
Advisors.
I'll get it wrong.
Yep.
And anyway, all that's going to be in the show notes. And Alex, brilliant having you on, and thanks for sharing your wisdom today.
Thank you, Paul. Enjoyed it very much.
Great interview by Alex. And you can see he's just got a wealth of experience. And the great thing is that he does really want to help people. He has got a huge database of people. And if you're interested in exit, even if you're not at that, 5 to 10 million stage now, reach out to Alex, get to know him. Because like he said, sometimes the journey can take, between 1 to 3 years to eventuate. But he is the guy in the space for particular Salesforce, ServiceNow in particular. He's the guy that I turn to and I send my clients to get a great exit for everyone. If you know peers that could benefit from this and maybe potentially looking to exit at some point, which most of you are, please share it with them. They'll love you for it. Check out our solo shows, and I'll see you next time on the Paul Higgins Show. Time for action. Subscribe, comment, and let me know what you like best about this episode. Plus, get the Strategic Profits Blueprint at paulhigginsmentoring.com/blueprint.